Jewish people is a complex concept that is challenging to unpack. We're a diverse group with different ethnicities, different languages and traditions, different cultural settings, different geography, and yet we consider every Jewish person to be part of the Jewish people. How does that work? It used to be that we found distinctiveness within by simply looking and seeing, is someone secular or someone religious? And then as time went on, there were varying degrees of, is someone secular, is someone religious? And those degrees of difference started to form their own communities and philosophies. And then we enter the modern world, and we've created affiliations with their own names and distinctive groups that have their own boundaries of identity, and then we begin to plot them on a spectrum that moves from far right to far left. The diversity of Jewish peoplehood grew, and while we all knew we're part of the Jewish people, we're not exactly sure how that works. And then often the modern world will step in and confuse the issue even more. Because the question then becomes from the modern world, how can you say you are one people if you have all the colors of people within you? How can you say you're one people if you don't all practice the same way? You don't all believe the same things. How are you united as a people? And eventually we ourselves begin to ask those questions, and we begin to look for sameness. We begin to look for homogeneity as if somehow Judaism wanted us to achieve that goal. It does not. In the Torah reading this week, the text describes how we begin to form peoplehood while we're still in the wilderness. We're taught to form it from the center, from the core, moving outward. And the way we're taught this is to look at the Israelite camp. The Torah is describing to us how that camp is forming. What is the structure of that camp that embodies within it the Jewish people? And so we want to look carefully at that. And the first thing we're told is head to the middle, head to the core, because in the middle you're going to find what is important, and in the middle is the Ten Commandments. The statement of identity, the statement of vision, the statement of commitment, revelation at Sinai. The defining moment is sitting in the core. They are sitting in the Ark of the Covenant. It's in the center of the Mishkan. The Mishkan is that moving place of holy ritual that all of Israel created together, built it together. That's sitting in the middle of the camp. Around that are the tribe of Levites. They are the ones who are in charge with protecting the core. They facilitate ritual, but they're also protecting that core. And from what we know of ancient Levites, they were known as musicians, they were known as ritual facilitators, and most importantly, and less known, is that they were fierce warriors. So they're actually protecting that core. When we move outward from the core, we see that all of the tribes of Israel are now being given designated places. Distinct places, which will be where they will always travel and camp. They're never going to move, they're never going to shift, they're never going to change places with anybody else. This is their place. And what we see is that they have distinctive identities because each one of them is now going to wave the flag of the tribe visibly to all others, and each of those flags are different. From the very beginning, we see that the Jewish people are a conglomeration of differences and uniqueness. The tribal distinctiveness will only grow from there once we enter Israel, because each tribe is going to get allocated land in different parts of Israel. Some will be on the coast, some will be in the mountains, some will be by the desert. The geography of where they are will influence the essence of the tribe, because they're now going to have to accommodate for the climate and the terrain, and it's going to impact their identity. So the uniqueness is going to grow. Yet as we look closely at the makeup of the camp in the wilderness, it begins to resemble the functionality of a human body. The heart is at the center, and it's protected. It's kept deep in the core, surrounded by the vital organs, each one specific and different from its neighbor. Moving outward from there, we see there are limbs and parts that interact with the world outside the camp. They're the ones, as we move outwards, are closer to the edges and closer to the world at large, and the innermost ones relate only to each other. It's the totality of the organism that creates its beauty and its harmony. In the modern world, we should be careful to reinforce a Jewish peoplehood of many differences. Some Jewish people connect strongly with text, while other Jewish people connect strongly with Jewish values, and other Jewish people connect strongly with acts of human kindness. We are not meant to be the same. We are meant to be united. We are meant to appreciate that we do not speak in one voice, yet we move together. We support each other because I cannot do what you can do. We are incomplete without each other. It's easy to look and see differences, but difference is not the same as distinctiveness. The nuances matter. Peoplehood means I allow you freedom within the frame. Exercise free will and explore. I will help your exploration as I hope you will help mine. When we find something that is meaningful to each and every one of us within the Jewish frame, we should commit to it and express through it in our unique ways. I don't need to agree with what you have found as long as we share the core frame. You don't need my agreement. We need each other's support. If we don't understand that Jewish peoplehood means we help each other find our own Jewish meaning that is uniquely ours, and then add that voice to our chorus, if we don't understand that, then we truly are still struggling for identity in the wilderness.